actually go through. Unfortunately, a lot of them are blocked because of sabotage and political reasons, and people suffer. But I do believe that he's doing the best that he can. Just knowing what I do know of him, I
Okay.
truly believe that. But most of the employment the issues are really contingent upon how we respond as citizens and people in the positions to hire and rehire.
Okay. Now, the reason why I asked you that question, Fran, is to ask you this. If you were the commander-in-chief, would you, on a regular basis, implement the encouragement for people not only to seek jobs or employment elsewhere, but to start their own entrepreneurial goals?
Absolutely, that would definitely be one of my major uh, propagandas. I would definitely give examples, more incentives, trainings. It would be huge because that's so close to my heart. Entrepreneurism, it's huge, and I love teaching people at a very early age. When my nieces and nephews, when they were young, I taught them how to double a dollar. So probably things that we discovered, maybe when we were 6 and 7, when you buy a bag of lollipops and you sell
Mhm.
things of that nature, and then to actually give back too, because that's part of being responsible. Is
Mhm.
with your profits, you're putting it back, yes, into your business, but you're putting back in other people too, the community. So I'm really an
Absolutely.
advocate of that.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100% on that. Now we have people who just feel that they can't get anything done, no matter what they decide to do or how they decide to do it. How would you inspire the uninspired? I mean, what steps would you take to get this done?
How would I inspire the uninspired?
That is correct.
Oh wow. I would inspire the uninspired by challenging them to use their gifts, and we're going back to the talents again, because another
Mhm.
word for the talents you're talking about is gifts. So I
Mhm.
would say, first, are you able to identify your gifts? And if they're not, I would
Ah.
help them.
Ah.
And then I would tell them that the reason they have their gifts is for them to actually share it with the world and, of course, advance them in whatever capacity they are. I would definitely do that. And if, wherever they needed more support, I would definitely do that. But the inspiration comes from what's in us. So, and I do believe that's why it starts with the first two letters. But I would just make sure that they were connected to what lives inside them.
Hmm. That sounds good. And how, I think the biggest issue that people do when they get lost in their life and their mindset is just oblivious to whatever they are trying to accomplish is that how do they discover what their gifts are? Some people don't know, Fran. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying?
You're
We're
right.
at a
You're right.
point in a stage in our lives right now where there's so much that has been happening to us with the economy and people losing their jobs and the constant, fight against everything right now. It's just a mix of emotions that are taking place. How do you discover what your gifts are? Where do we look? We had a caller, an interview a couple weeks ago where we talked about people knowing that the smallest thing that they do on the side is a gift, that they can turn that into a business. But how do they discover? We trying to find that passion. Where do you go? Is cutting grass okay? Is washing cars okay? And that's probably the minimum of what people think is an inspirational goal. But even that, to me, if you do it well, you could turn that into an entrepreneurial status. Is that correct?
You can. You can turn it into an entrepreneur status, and and sometimes it doesn't have to really lead into the entrepreneur status. I'll just give you an example to answer your first question. How do you discover it? If you're not sure, then you need to sit down and just reflect on some of the statements that have been told you as you were growing up.
Mhm.
For example, someone might
Mhm.
say, you really sing well. or you have a knack for that, or you're really good with your hands, or you have a great analytical ability. So those are hints. When I was growing up, I heard from lots of people, including both my parents, that I was good in teaching things. And my mom would always tell me, and it was really cute. She would say, your dad, says that you should be a teacher, and my dad would always say, your mom says you should be a teacher. They were both telling me that. And I did because I wanted to, but I also wanted to teach outside the classroom. But as I mentioned before, once you start using your gift, you'll be in tune with other gifts. And then you're always listening to what people are saying. You do this well, or you do this well. And you might feel awkward because a lot of us are really humble. But the truth is that when you're getting a lot of affirmations or confirmations from people from different backgrounds and abilities and ethnic groups, and they're saying the same thing, that's the biggest hint you'll get, that God is actually using these people to, get your attention. This is your gift. This is why you are in this world, and it's not about you. And a lot of people need to really think I should say expand on their thinking. For example, people have the gift of song, meaning they can sing very, very well. That doesn't mean necessarily that they have to go on a stage and go tour, et cetera, et cetera. I know a lot of people sing very well. Maybe their gift is more of a visionary or missionary, where they can go and sing to people. Maybe those people who are in convalescent homes, or maybe do tutorials where they take people in their own home and they teach them how to sing and some of the basic and fundamentals. So you really have to think ingeniously of how you can actually use your gift, and it doesn't always mean commercial.
That's beautiful. That was beautifully said. I like that. Now, when I was going over your website, Fran, I noticed that you really focus on personal empowerment for children. So that means to me that you truly, as you have said in your previous statements here today, focus on starting at an early age. Because I noticed that you said your inspiration came from your parents, starting with you at a very young age. Parents today, and I know a lot of people are not going to like what I say, don't believe that children are capable of acquiring a learning skill until a certain age. And as far as I am concerned, my opinion is that I've always been told that you can start teaching a child at the earliest age, and habit becomes life. How do you feel about that?
Well, I agree. I absolutely agree. And conversely, just to go on another tangent, you can teach someone who's really elderly, and maybe in their 60s and 70s, and if they get it, they can go on. But it is true, children. There's a higher propensity for them to actually adapt to knowledge. Especially when it comes to the languages. Children can easily learn 3 languages simultaneously, because of the way they're wired. And then you have other things that affect that as well, classical music, and even, playing the piano. Then, of course, people are just spiritually wired, right, that to retain more knowledge. I mean, we're all different. But for the most part, I know for a truth is that it's how you perceive yourself and how you perceive the world, meaning that you may not have the, highest intellect or IQ, but you can really adopt where you can acquire that. It might take a little bit more time, but for the most part, everything's a mind game. It's what you decide that you can acquire, then you will. A lot of people, when they don't have a strong belief in self or their abilities, that's when they fall short. And then it makes it worse when you have people supporting that negative self-image, where they could be really great. And some of the greatest among us will tell you once upon a time they were tricked because they didn't see themselves, and then they also had people telling them that they weren't talented. But, thank God, they busted out of that.
Absolutely. Fran, it's been a pleasure. This is what I need for you to do for me right now. I need you to close us out with a positive statement or words for our listeners today, and then tell us the best way our listeners can contact you and find out about who you are and what you do.
I will, Yolanda. Thank you. The most positive thing that I am choosing to share with the listeners is that the best way to become and maintain, inspiration to doing what you want to do is to decide and not quit until you actually get to where you want to be. Or another way of saying is to don't stop until you acquire what you desire. That's the best thing I can say to you.
That's really nice.
We all know, I was just telling a friend this, that we all are going to go through the, ebbs and flows and peaks and values. That's a given. Do not be discouraged. You have to get back up. You have to find a way to pull it within yourself. I use my faith. I call him my creator. I call him God a lot. And I encourage people to have a relationship with their creator as well. So that's what I definitely want to leave the listeners with. And then to get in touch with me, the best way to get in touch with me is to call me. It's 206-279-0818. And again, that's the telephone number, 206-279-0818. And then I'm going to say something that's really unconventional, and I'm not going to give you a website, but I'm going to tell you to really just Google Fran Briggs. And the reason I say this is not so much of a marketing way, but just to see what other people have said about Fran Briggs and who she is, because it's easy to put up a website, but it's not the most objective tool you can use because you're basically putting everything there, or if you have a copyright person, they're doing that. But you really want to see what everyone else is doing and where, that individual has been, whatever. I also use other types of software too when I find out more about people. But look for the most objective resource when you're doing any type of research, especially with people. So I want to thank you, Yolanda, and PMG Radio 2. It's always a pleasure to be a guest. And thank you for reminding me that I was your first guest. It means a lot.
Yes, thank you for being my first guest. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, as always. And we have to do this again real soon. I'm back on board. I am back, Fran.
Yes, I'm glad you recovered. I know you didn't want to go and talk about the health, but I think that's amazing. And a lot of that has to do with your positive mental energy. I love it. Much to be learned.
You're absolutely right. And when I read positive books such as the one that you read, that's $28, and there are other authors that I consistently read. I'm a reader. And it helps encourage you. It's an encouragement tool along with the Bible to hear people that are inspirational as yourself and many others who are on the same page to helping you regain your mental recovery is what I like to say. Yeah. And people need to understand that mental recovery affects your body and your heart. My mother had a famous quote. She used to always say, strong mind, strong heart, for as long as I can remember till she died. And it wasn't until I actually started receiving spiritual guidance and to improve myself that I understood those words. So, with your encouragement and many others, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, too, and I think that's beautiful. Your mother was a wise woman.
I
thank you again.
Thank you, Fran, and come back and see us again. Have a good day.
I will. You too. Bye now.
All right. Bye-bye.